Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, senior editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. It is actually Wednesday.
And we're back.
And it's actually, great start to the show. It's actually Wednesday, but if you're listening on the podcast side, it's Thursday. We're not doing this audio on the podcast side until Thursday. So for those that are listening on the podcast side, happy Thanksgiving. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But let me first welcome in our co-host, Brian Anthony Davis. What's going on, Brian?
Gentlemen, not only do I give thanks for both of you, I give thanks to everybody here, and I give thanks to about tomorrow at this time that I will be passed out with my pants unbuttoned until the Sizzler manager kicks me out.
The Sizzler is open. Dave Schofield, what's going on?
Oh, I'm excited to be here with you guys. It feels weird going a little bit after 5 o'clock on a Wednesday.
I like it.
Throws off my schedule. But you know what's really nice? I could actually use trivia that I'm going to talk about on Stat Geek, and I don't have to look up something else because Stat Geek doesn't go to tomorrow. So I'm excited about that.
There you go. There's a silver lining in every cloud. I like going earlier because I'm not falling asleep during the show, so that's always a plus for me. But you know what? It's Wednesday, so keep that in mind if you're listening on the podcast side. You're like, wait a second, why are they talking about the Wednesday injury report? Because we're recording on Wednesday, so therefore we're giving you the latest news that we have. So Dave, let's start off with that. The Steelers, especially on the defensive side of the ball, have been decimated with injuries and issues. Wednesday, they got back on the practice field. What did it look like for the Steelers?
Well, I was excited because I'm sitting there waiting for the injury report, I'm like, oh, the Steelers just released their practice photos. Let's look at these. Picture number 2, boom, 1, Trent Jordan Watt. So I already knew that TJ in some capacity was at practice. So he was listed as limited. You know what? I'm okay with that because the drills it looks like he was doing, it looked like he was fine. Another one that I noticed then too was one Isaiah Loudermilk. So the two of them were back limited at practice. Surprisingly, this one kind of caught me off guard that Ben Roethlisberger practiced in a limited fashion. I expected him to be a did not practice, especially a Sunday night game, after getting over
you Ben
COVID.
Haters, all you Ben haters out there that he doesn't practice on Wednesdays. There you go.
I wonder if he threw it all, because you could still try to run through a lot of practice without making a throw, depending on what they're doing. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know, but maybe because he didn't practice all last week, he was feeling a little bit better. But then again, when you're getting over being sick, you don't always feel the best. So those were the 3 players that were limited. There were 5 players that did not practice. Cam Hayward, coach's decision, whoop-de-doo.
He'll be fine.
Trey Turner didn't practice again with his knee. Now, the same thing happened last week. He didn't practice that. And remember, he didn't finish with the Week 10 game. And he came out. He didn't practice on Wednesday, but then he was full the next 2 days and was fine. I'm hoping because he's a veteran guy that they're basically trying to keep him on the same schedule this week. I'm okay with that.
But hold on, before you leave Trey Turner, this is a different injury. He was an ankle. This is labeled as a knee. Yes.
Really? I completely missed it. I was thinking it was a knee the first time.
Now I missed.
There's too many.
I remember after the game.
I think you're right. Now that you've said it, I'm pretty sure you're right.
I'm pretty sure after the Detroit game, he was listed as an ankle injury, and now it's labeled as a knee. And now I'm thinking to myself, shoot, is this a new injury? I don't know. I digress.
I'm not
Continue.
sure.
Continue with the chlorophyll.
Okay, but chlorophyll sounds really. I have to take a complete side note now, just because what you did.
What did I do?
That movie came on TV this past weekend. I haven't watched that movie in probably over 15 years.
Oh my!
And it was the beginning of it. And what my wife didn't realize is that I was reciting every line, and I hadn't seen it in that long, including the gibberish. I even knew the gibberish, the correct way to say it. So anyway,
Colonel Sanders.
No.
Wait,
wrong movie.
Yeah, that is the wrong movie, Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Billy Madison. I actually saw Billy Madison in the theater. Yeah.
So did I.
So, gosh, wow, it's weird because his characters are the same in every movie.
No,
So.
take that back right now.
Shame on you. Mr. Shooter McGavin GIF is going to have a problem with it.
Rock, R-O-K?
Okay.
No, it's R-O-C-K. Oh, the C is
The
silent.
C is silent. Here we go. All right. So there were two players that didn't practice. So I had honestly, in getting the injury report article ready, I had already written down they hadn't practiced. And that was JC Hassenauer and Eric Ebron. I'm expecting both of them to go on IR. I was expecting Kevin Dotson last week to go on IR, which he did eventually. There's no reason to rush them on before the game, but Hassenauer, maybe not. I don't look for him to have any chance to play this week. And Ebron, they say, could even very well be done for the season. They've already made the move to sign Kevin Rader off the practice squad. That tells you Eric Ebron is not going to be around for a long time. And the fact they brought in another guard, brought back another guard to the practice squad in Rashad Coward, who spent training camp in the first 4 games of the season with the Steelers. That tells me a little bit more about Hassenauer as well. The only other player that we didn't mention yet, and this is the one that kind of hurts a little bit, Joe Hayden did not practice with the foot. Now, I will tell you this. Joe Hayden's a veteran, so he could get by without practicing on a Wednesday. But man, they've lost 7 straight games when Hayden wasn't in the lineup. 7 straight games that Hayden didn't play. So I'd really like to see him. I'm really hoping he can get back sooner than later.
Let's start off this way with the injury report. Brian, I'll start with you. Let's assume Eric Ebron is done. And I mean done as in he's never going to wear a black and gold jersey again, because after this season, he probably is done. How would you describe Eric Ebron's tenure with the Steelers?
He was there. And
he tried.
Yeah, I mean,
he played hard.
Great enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, there was something, just a sideline shot the other day of Ebron and Pat Freiermuth, and it was so awesome to see. This is a guy that cares about his team, that he's there. I mean, he acts like he's been with the Steelers since he's been a rookie. That's the kind of enthusiasm you get out of Eric Ebron. Signs of brilliance last year. Just one sign of brilliance again with the one pass play against the Chargers the other day. I mean, he was serviceable. I really thought that he was better than most people think that he was. But the history books are going to read that he was underwhelming to most. But I'm just going to say he was there and he was serviceable.
What about you, Dave? Eric Ebron's tenure?
My opinion, and this is just my gut feeling, so it's a pretty big feeling, is that Eric Ebron, more than anything, wanted to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He bought into being with this team. I don't know that he was the right fit for what they wanted to do with the tight end, but he still came in and did what he could do. Last year, I mean, how many times did Jeffrey Benedict have to bring this up, that almost all of Ebron's drops were after he had played more snaps than he ever had in the season. He was playing hurt. He was trying to play through it, and he didn't play well. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of Steelers fans are going to remember him by if this is the end of the road for him. But I do want to ask this question. This would have been a great trivia because I don't know the answer to this. Is there any other player in Steelers history that their last play that they played for the Steelers was where they scored a touchdown? Because that's Eric Ebron.
Was that the play that he got hurt?
Yeah, he got hurt on the touchdown, didn't play after that.
Really? It was a knee injury. I mean, he celebrated and stuff. Like it's not like he limped off the field. I mean, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you get in that end zone, if you get in that touchdown zone, here's the deal. It doesn't matter how bad you hurt. You celebrate. Because remember, glory lasts forever because chicks.
Oh gosh, here we go. Worst football movie ever.
All right, come on.
Absolutely not. No. You know what? I'm just going to say this right now. I think in the off season we should have a battle of sports movies.
Sure, let's do
Especially
it. Set
football
it up.
movie. I guarantee you that is not the worst football movie ever.
Well, no, it's not the worst, but I put it right there with the Necessary Roughness.
Oh no!
Yes,
Little Giants, maybe, but come on.
Whoa!
How much of a football movie does it have to be? How much does football
what are you talking
have
about,
to be in
Dave?
that?
Give us the movie you're thinking.
Starship Troopers.
I've never seen it. That's not a football movie.
Where they go and fight the aliens. They're playing a version of football at the beginning of it. It's hilarious. And it's a terrible movie, but still, I'm just saying it has football in it, and it's not a good movie. So I'd put that one down there as a bad one.
All right. Anyways, let's get back to the injury report, guys. Which injury, even if they practice in a limited basis, which one is the biggest injury for the Steelers? Like, you got to get this player back. Which one is that? Brian. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, obviously, but he practiced today, so TJ Watt is imperative. But for me, the guy that I need more than anything is Joe Hayden there as well. I mean, I want them both, but you can look at some of the other guys. You have other guys that can step in. With Hassanauer out, there's guys that can step in. You have no one that's going to fill the shoes of TJ Watt. And probably not for Hayden either.
Dave, what about you? What do you think? You had to pick one.
Well, this is crazy because I threw the stat out there already. The Steelers have lost 7 straight games where Joe Hayden did not play. And that really is a thing, and that's including the playoffs. But I also feel that there's of who I'm thinking of, there's the least amount of drop-off to who's going to come in and play, because I think James Pierre isn't playing bad. You know, I'm more concerned about if Trent Jordan Watt's not playing, but he was at practice today, like Brian said. So I'm not as concerned about him because I think he's going to play now. So the other concern to me, even though it's not on the quote unquote injury report, is one Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I thought he might have been activated off the COVID-19 list today in order to practice, but he must not be through the protocol. I'm just hoping he can get through it before Sunday, because, you know, Trey Norwood does a great job when the Steelers can put him in the role that they wanted him in. And he played hard, you know, but he was doing things that was outside of what he's normally asked to do. So I think there's the bigger drop off there. I want to see TJ back. I want to see Minkah back. I mean, I want to see them all back, but I would put Joe Hayden, even though there's that crazy stat that I keep bringing up, third on the list, just because I have more confidence in Pierre than I do the backups at the other two. And then everybody else is just way down the list.
Okay, talking about these injured players on the defensive side of the ball, we're talking Hayden, we're talking Watt, and then we'll also throw in Fitzpatrick, even though he's not hurt. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question about the Bengals, which is the opponent for this weekend, Sunday, 1:00, Paul Brown Stadium. Mr. Burrow, Joe Burrow, assuming those 3 players are in the lineup, does Joe Burrow scare you as a fan? There's always been those quarterbacks where you're like, oh, gosh. I mean, Tom Brady has haunted Steeler fans for over a decade, and you knew that there was going to be a tough game. Joe Burrow's only in his second year. He has beaten the Steelers, but does Joe Burrow scare you at all? Brian, we'll start with you.
No. However, I think he's awesome. I really like him. I really like what he's done, but he doesn't scare me if you have Minkah Fitzpatrick, if you have Joe Hayden, if you have TJ Watt. Just TJ Watt alone kind of minimizes what he can do. So I'm going to say, I think he is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler in this league. Some people don't think that matters, but I think he's going to be a consistent quarterback. But if the Steelers have the defense that they're supposed to have, then they should be fine. If all 3 of those guys are in there, then you're not worried as much about Jamar Chase just blasting past you. You're not, because you have not just Hayden in there, it depends where he's lining up, but you have Minkah in center field. But the big thing is to have him rattled, and no one's going to rattle you more than TJ Watt.
What about you, Dave? What do you think about that?
Not yet. I'll give you a great Dave answer because, you know, he's still young in his career. I think there's a chance that he could get there, but with his trajectory, but not yet. But about Joe Burrow scaring the Steelers, my biggest thing right now that kind of scares me a little bit is that the confidence that he may have got from the first game they played. And that was not the Steelers defense that he was going up against when both TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith were out. I want to see TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith have a meeting of the minds at the quarterback the very first play when they go back to say, oh yeah, Mr. Burrow, this ain't week 3. This ain't week 3. You're going to have to deal with us today. So let's get after him. Because of that, that's the biggest thing that I'm concerned with Burrow, is that he might have got some confidence going against the Steelers based on the last game. But I really think that confidence could be broken by one Trent Jordan-Watt.
Speaking of scaring, and Joe Burrow, I said the question was, does he scare you? Brian, does Joe Mixon in the running game of the Bengals scare you more than Joe?
You know what? Not necessarily. I don't even know if he does. I think he's kind of he has not really torn up the Steelers, and I don't have his stats in front of me. Now, a lot of people are right now, we weren't talking about this at the beginning of the season, but now everybody is completely down on the middle of the field, the inside linebackers. I will say this. You can talk about the inside linebackers all you want, but man, they were getting killed off of the sweeps and around the ends when it came to Austin Eckler the other day too. So there's a lot of things that you can talk about the weakness. There are a lot of weaknesses on that defense right now, and a lot of the weaknesses are due to the fact that all these guys are out. I mean, lots of guys out. Those players that were in there and struggling, they had no help. They were left on an island, and they were getting killed in that game.
Dave, what are your thoughts on that in terms of Joe Mixon and the Bengals running game?
To me, it's the combination of Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. It's that player that can open it up over the top, which then can allow the running back to do his job running up the middle, because you can't sell out for one for fear of the other. And Joe Mixon, it's not like, I mean, he has 2 100-yard rushing games this season, the first game of the season and the last game of the season. Brian said he didn't look it up, so I did while he was talking. He's got a lot of touchdowns this year. I mean, he's already have, oh my goodness, let me look at this here. He already has 9 rushing touchdowns this year. So, and he's had 2 per game the last 2 games. So he's a good quality running back that you have to account for. And because you have to account for him, and you also have to account for that over-the-top threat, that's what kind of makes you a little bit weaker on one or the other, if that makes any sense. So it's the combination that if it was just Joe Mixon, it wouldn't be the same as it is without the other cast of characters.
No, I agree. I like both of your points there. Let's bring up we don't do this often, a Facebook comment. Eric, I think it's Weedman from Facebook, says the Steelers should be fired up. Tyler Boyd said that they gave up last time. I forgot about that.
Oh,
Brian Anthony Davis. Brian Anthony Davis, do you believe in the bulletin board material, or is that just a fan thing?
No, you know what? That is real. And the Bengals and Bills made it real last December when they were letting everybody know that Juju fired them up. Now, did he really? No, they're not. I mean, they're not going to get fired up just because of that, but they're going to there's a different kind of embarrassment. And when you're accused of quitting or giving up, if that doesn't hit you in the soul, that's one of the worst comments that one athlete could give to another. Really. Yeah, you know, you can say so many things. You could say, hey, they're not good enough to beat us. That's fine. That's fine. Bulletin board, you could say, oh, yeah, we're going to beat them. And then Bill Cowher says, will you shut up, Peasy, next week? No, they shot me in Denver. You know, that's one thing. But when you question the character of a man or a woman, when you question somebody's character, then that's fighting words. And if they don't remember that, then they're not doing their job. The captains and the coaches, and not doing your job if you don't say they accused you of quitting. My gosh, if somebody accused me of quitting, oh, here it comes in the live chat. But if somebody accused me of quitting, I'm fighting, and I don't fight very often. So I hope they are ticked off going into that jungle and you fire up the Escalooser. By the way, this was my final thought of the day, but we got to it first. If you're not
Brian
fired
can
up for
sign off
this
after
game,
this because that's his final thought.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm out of here. But if they don't come out looking for blood, my gosh, Cincinnati came out looking for blood because Juju was dancing. They hit him harder in that game last year. They did because they were ticked off. I tell you what, somebody's going to take out Tyler Boyd's legs the first chance they get. If they have any pride, they're going to let them know that you don't talk like that on us. You don't question the character of a man, a woman, a person without them getting hurt. And if they don't get hurt in their head about it, if they don't have a fire under their butt, then guess what? They don't have the pride to play this game.
Dave, what are your thoughts? You said you remembered. I had totally forgot about the Tyler Boyd comments, to be honest, but go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Well, and I mean, it was, being from Pittsburgh and everything, because, I mean, come on. Who really gave up playing against the Bengals was that ugly purple team in the AFC North. That's who they gave up at the end of that game. I mean, my goodness, they were going for it on 4th and 7 in their own territory with 12 minutes left. They completely waved the white flag. But anyway, I'm not as sold on it as Brian, because it's had some time, and the Steelers are dealing with their own issues after a tie to the Lions and a loss in LA. That they have those are the things that they need to focus on and worry about more. Now, when they step out onto the field, do you think they might be able to use that a little bit? I hope so, but I don't know, because they have so many other things that they really need to focus on getting better doing than to worry about just, making sure we stand up for our honor. So what really would be nice would be a delightful combination of both. But I'm just not quite as passionate about it as Brian Anthony Davis.
Well, I think the thing is, too, for me, that the motivation should come from the fact that Bengals have beat you 2 straight games.
Yes.
They beat you on Monday Night Football last season, and they beat you at home this season. I mean, if that doesn't motivate you, like I've said a million times on podcasts, well, we have bigger problems. You shouldn't need Tyler Boyd to run his mouth to get you motivated for this game. It's AFC North ball, as Mike Tomlin says. It's hot in the kitchen, whatever motto he uses for that. But okay, we're going to talk more about the Bengals here in the second half. I want to get your thoughts on news that happened today on Wednesday. A former Pittsburgh Steeler, Mr. Hines Ward, Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 40. He was announced as a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. We've talked about it before, but I want to get your thoughts. This year in inductions, he was obviously the one that inducted, who did he induct? Alan Faneca. We've seen it before. It's the Tony Dungy with Donnie Shell. Does Hines Ward have a good shot, and maybe not this year, but in coming years, of actually getting in? Brian, what do you think?
I think there's a 5-year plan from this point forward for Hines Ward to get in. I don't know exactly who's in front of him. The big name went in last year, and it was Calvin Johnson, who nobody's beaten. Nobody's going to beat him to get in. And so he is in right now. I need to take a look at that list a little bit more and see the wide receivers. I have not had a chance to do it. But if you're not a contender for the Hall of Fame until you make it into the semifinals. And I believe this is 25. Is that right, gentlemen?
25 what?
25 in the semifinals.
It's 26 this year.
26. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it goes down to 15 or 16 or what have you. And then it's the day before the Super Bowl. So when that's announced. But I think this is finally justifying what Hines Ward has done. So this means that he's in the conversation. I think once you get into that conversation of the semifinals, you're going to get there. If you look at Faneca's road took a long time. And it took longer than a lot of people think it should have. Jerome Bettis's took a long time. And that's way much longer than it should have. But those guys got in. I don't care about first ballot stuff. That first ballot does not bother me. They don't put first ballot on the bust. You're just in. Because once you're in, you're a Hall of Famer, and that's nothing else. Nobody talks about first ballot after they're in. I think Hines still has a few years to go, but this is for him to trend up and be in there. That means that he's definitely considered. And then you're going to watch some guys get in. Like Bert Tavares says, Isaac Bruce gets in first. And yeah, that's
Didn't
true.
Isaac Bruce already get in?
Torrey Holt did.
Torrey Holt, yeah.
No. Torrey Holt's on the list now. Isaac Bruce is not.
This is the other one.
I thought Isaac Bruce went in already.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
If not, he's not a semifinalist. I'll tell you that. Because I have the list right here in front of me.
I did not think he did. So, but enough about me talking about it. I'm just saying, yeah, he gets in, but we're gonna have to wait.
All right, Dave, what are your thoughts on Hines?
Well, I'll tell you one thing though. If you look at the announcement that was on Twitter from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they had a bunch of players that they had 6 players on that they had their picture of when they listed all the names. One of which was Hines Ward. So I thought that was interesting. But I'll probably miss a receiver in here, but because they don't have they have them listed here. But the ones that I see that made the semifinals are Anquan Bolden, Andre Johnson, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith, of course, Hines Ward, Reggie Wayne, and I think that's it. So that's the wide receivers he's going up against this year. So between, I don't know about you all, but I could see either it being Hines or it being no wide receivers this year. Because I don't know that I'd put anyone else ahead of him. This is his 6th time being a semifinalist. So sometimes you just have to wait it out. He does have the credentials with the Super Bowl MVP. That does really help. And he does have the 1,000 receptions. He has that exactly regular season because he had another 88 in the playoffs. So, and who just typed that in the live chat from us that Isaac Bruce is in? Brian did. Okay. I thought so. I knew one of the Rams got in, and I knew Torrey Holt was still eligible. So I think he has a chance. I'm not going to be like Alan Faneca for the last 2 years where he went or somebody else who wasn't as good as him went in place of him for 2 straight years before he got in. So that would be the big thing with me is that if he doesn't make it, I'm not going to say he was robbed like Faneca was the last 2 years before he did. But I'm hoping he gets there, but I am looking at it with black and gold goggles on.
Yeah, obviously. Well, let me ask you this question. This is just kind of general. For you specifically, individually, where does Hines rank on like your favorite Steelers of all time list? And again, this isn't like, oh, well, all Steeler fans love Mean Joe. I never saw Mean Joe Green play a snap of football. Wasn't alive. Hines Ward is high on my list. Brian, where does he fall on yours?
Guys, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not trying to give you Dave answer. If somebody asks me who my favorite Steeler is of all time, I can't answer. I've got like 20 or 25.
Was he high on the list? I mean,
he's high on the
top.
He's high on the list. He's probably top 10. And because I saw Joe Green, I saw LC Greenwood, who's probably one of my favorite Steelers, who's not in, and he's been mentioned in the live chat. I've seen these guys. I've seen most of these guys except for Dick Shiner. And I know that's on Jeff's list, but there are other reasons for that.
Living legend.
But
actually,
with Hines Ward is number 1 on the list. He's a non-living legend.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Mr. Shiner.
I gotta find out his birthday. We will have a celebration show.
Do you ever think Dick Shiner's family would think that there'd be people talking about him on a podcast in 2021 about the Steelers?
Well, I'm sure they're not thrilled that he's in the Urban Dictionary. Yeah. His name. I mean, so Hines is. Without Hines, the 2000s aren't as special as what they were. So when you look at that, he's probably one of the biggest reasons that they won both of those Super Bowls. And even though he didn't play a lot in 43, but he was a decoy. So, as far as that goes, I love everything about Hines Ward, and he's got to get in there. He definitely should.
Okay, well, Hall of Fame aside, Dave, where does he fall on your all-time Steeler list?
Just looking at, if you would just give me a name and say put him in there somewhere, I would say top 5. Now, if you actually asked me to come up with the names, it might even be 6 or 7 when I actually have to insert other names in there. But if you're just saying Hines Ward, where's your risk? I'm saying top 5. Love me some Hines Ward.
Yeah, well, for me, like when Jerome Bettis retired after Super Bowl 40, and yes, you had a young Ben Roethlisberger, Hines Ward was the face of the offense for the rest of his career. I mean, Santonio Holmes was there, and he made great play. It was Hines Ward, though. I mean, Keith Rivers will never be the same, and I'll never be the same for watching that play live when he smacked him upside the head and broke his jaw. Now there's a rule in place, the Hines Ward rule. So Hines Ward's great. Absolutely great. But I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, don't go anywhere. We aren't going anywhere. But on the podcast side, head over to part 2. We'll be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the second part of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, senior editor, BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me as always, the triumphant trio, the three amigos, Dave Schofield, Brian Anthony Davis, and we are talking about all things Steelers leading up to this Week 12 game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I want to talk about giving thanks. That's kind of the headline of this podcast. This is running on Thanksgiving Day for the podcast listeners out there. Not sure how many people will be tuning in on Thanksgiving, but hey, maybe if you're traveling, you're listening to podcasts and things like that. I want to give everyone around the horn here a chance to just give a little thank you to Steeler Nation and for the fact that the Steelers are still relevant, right? Go ahead, Brian, it's your turn.
You know what? So I have always loved the Steelers since I was a kid. And I have always thought I've known a lot about the Steelers. And now I have a platform. And this platform to me lets me know that I'm in the conversation, but I don't know more than everybody else. But you have some people making me feel like I do. And that's a very special thing. And I think one thing that makes BTSC so special is that we could have these people on the side agreeing and disagreeing with us. And we have so many people in the conversation that I feel we are all equals. And that's really special to me because if you know me, if you ask my wife and knew nothing about me, and she said, what's your husband most passionate about? She would say family, Casey Kasem, and not to be left out, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And she would definitely say that. And I've got to say, I feel like I have this website here and the podcast platform has given me a voice that I never thought I'd have. And I can't have this voice if it isn't for the Captain Underpants and the Mark Tobins and the Ryan O'Tolls and the Sean Smiths. I mean, I can't, and so many more. I can't have this voice, and I'm blessed to have it. So my dream has come true because of guys like Jeff Hartman and Dave Schofield giving me an opportunity. And I tell you what, just to be, when you type in Pittsburgh Steelers and you see BTSC on the list, that makes me feel like I've conquered something that I've never had a chance to conquer. And it makes me feel like my dreams have come true. So once again, can't do it without all of you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for these guys giving me this platform. And I'm thankful for my family understanding that Sundays are Bad's Day.
There you go. Dave, go ahead. Your chance to give thanks here on this Turkey Day / Turkey Day Eve.
Yeah, I'm thankful for, well, you know who's really thankful? My wife is so thankful for you all, Jeff, Brian, and everyone here listening or in the live chat, because if it wasn't for you all, she would have to hear about the Steelers so much more than she already does. She just she wanted me to have an outlet to talk about the Steelers and encouraged me to set up a Facebook page, and now I don't even do Facebook. And that's how I got into this, had that, met Jeff, next thing you know, here I am sitting with two buddies talking about the greatest franchise in all of professional sports with people that are passionate and actually want to hear what we have to say. And I just appreciate all of you guys. I'm not talking to you two now. I'm talking to everybody else, anyone who's hearing this. I just appreciate all of you, because if it weren't for you, granted, we would still probably talk about the Steelers to each other, but not really the same, because it's you all that really, you all are what makes Behind the Steel Curtain the podcast platform that it is. And we just appreciate you all so much. And thank you so much.
This is a good stop. I want to get.
I got to bring up a comment.
Brad says shirtless Bads Day. I mean, is that happening on Sunday? Because did it happen Sunday night?
It did.
Oh,
the entire game.
Oh man.
Oh, so yeah. Man. So we kind of.
You gotta find something
I could wear
new.
Shirts again. Yeah.
You got to find something new.
Pantsless Bad Day.
Yeah.
BJ Finney.
Pantsless Bad Day.
Those pants aren't fitting right now.
So, of course, he brought it up in the live chat. I also have to be thankful that I get to do a podcast with my brother, which is really, really cool. Yeah. Thanks, big bro.
Yeah, for me, I want to say, and if you haven't listened to some of our BTSC Gives Thanks podcasts, make sure you head over to our podcast platform. And that's anywhere you get your podcasts. Search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain. You'll find our whole list of podcasts. I think it's worthwhile to say how crazy life can be sometimes. And let me explain. So there was a time where I was basically running this website podcast thing all by myself. Literally, my wife would say, "Oh my gosh, you're writing like 5 articles a day. You're doing multiple podcasts a week." And I was like, it's just what I did. It's because I wanted to make myself super valuable to SB Nation and Vox Media. And then my son was in kindergarten and we had field day, and I went and I see another guy, Brian Anthony Davis, wearing a Steelers shirt. And we start talking about the Steelers. One thing leads to another. He tells me he has radio experience. He's actually done some writing. You're on the team. And so he comes on board. Another year, I'm not sure what year this is. Dave could probably tell you. I'm warming up for a softball game. And someone comes up to me and says, 2018. There you go. I knew he would know it. I don't. And someone said, "Hey, Jeff, you need to meet this guy. He's a big Steeler fan. I was telling him about your website. He wants to talk to you." Okay. So I'm standing there warming up, stretching, and then here comes Dave Schofield. We're talking. "Hey, I write articles. I do a Facebook page. Hey, come on the team." Never in my wildest dreams would I imagine that here we are, not only just streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, but being significant players of this Behind the Steel Curtain team, the brain trust, as I call it. When we have our meetings, the BTSC summits before every football season and stuff. It's incredible. It is incredible how sometimes just the way the world works, it puts people in your place at the right time for the right reason, and super thankful for you two gentlemen. So if you want to listen to other thankful stuff, you can go check out my podcast I did about that. But I want to take the time to thank both you, Dave, you, Brian, for all the hard work you do for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com on both sides of the fence. That's editorial and podcasting. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, all right. Yeah, Brian, hadn't I seen you at the chiropractor though before I met you?
And I actually have a good story about that, because I saw your son wearing a shirt, and it's the headless Steelers shirt where he's running. I remember I got to get that for my son, and I had that for both my son and daughter. And I saw that, and the first time I talked to you was in October of, I guess, 13. It's the first time I talked to you, because we were there in the 8th or 9th inning of a Pirates playoff game against the Cardinals when they had that 5-game series. And we were talking, and that's when I found out you were from Wheeling. First time I talked to you. And so you always remember that, because I do have to correct your story a little bit. I got there at the last minute because I was wearing a suit. I came from a meeting. I was wearing a suit. So you remembered the fact that I was from Johnstown and that I'm a Steelers fan. Yeah. So that's even bigger on you for not seeing the Steelers shirt or the black and gold stuff and seeing me in a suit and still remembering. So very big credit for you. But it's something. And Sean Smith wrote here, I have no brothers, so BTSC is my brothers. I don't have brothers either. I have friends and I have family. And these guys, I mean, completely, when stuff was going on with me earlier in the year, these guys were not talking about podcasts and numbers and all of this. They were talking about how are you, what can we do to help, and did stuff without me saying anything. And treat me like family all the time. And I mean, I love these guys like brothers, and I'm not getting sappy, but I'm thankful for these guys because my wife considers Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman as my brothers. And they really do. And my son sees one of the names on the screen on the phone that I'm talking to on the phone, because I talk to these guys on the phone a lot. And Dave will tell you, he'll just yell, "Hi, Dave!"
Yes, he will.
So it's a special thing. I know this is turning into a love fest, but I don't care because this is a part-time profession for me, but it's a full-time family now.
That's a good way to put it. Good way to put it. Dave, anything you want to add? Or are you good?
How can I top that? I don't know what else to say. I'm just appreciative of the whole. I never thought this is where I would be, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I never thought that I would have this opportunity to talk and write and do the things that I do. So I'm just still blown away by it when I really stop and think about it. So,
and can I say something? How lucky are all of us that we are fans of the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers? I mean, think about this, people. I mean, we love to complain and we love to say, that guy stinks, that guy stinks. Think about what it would be like if you were a Jacksonville Jaguar fan or a Houston Texans fan or a New York Jets fan, or I could rattle off so many more teams and so could you. My gosh, we're the fan of the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers. And it's so awesome that we are fans. Look, I left 2 summers ago for 2 months, and I had to take my fan hat off to do that job. And I hated it. And it's because I love this community. I love this job because I can be a fan, and that's what they want us to be at SB Nation and Vox Media. They want this to be a fan-driven site. We are fans just like you are that are watching. We want them to win. We root for them to win. I don't have to hide that. But we're fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers, like the 6-time Super Bowl champions. We talk about Super Bowl or bust. There are teams out there that literally say, I hope we make the playoffs this year. I hope we have a winning record. That's their expectation.
I hope we win 4 games. That's what some of them really are.
Seriously. Think about that sometimes. We are fans of one of the greatest franchises and organizations in all of professional sport. That's special. You should be thankful. I don't care how you became a fan. You could have become a fan after Super Bowl 43, and they just won the Super Bowl, and you're like, I like that team. Good for you. I guarantee you everyone's fandom stems back to a fair weather fan at some point. It's okay. Just follow the team. Be a diehard fan. You have kids. Raise them the right way. That's all you got to do.
Amen.
And we are. Yeah. Go ahead. All right, here we go. Let's see here. So a lot of people giving us thanks. We appreciate it. It's a labor of love. Well, I'll say that. It's a labor of love for sure. Hey, you all ready for over under? Let's get back to the business at hand. You all ready? Let's do this. Yeah. Okay, so last week was crazy because I was talking about Mason Rudolph attempts, and then Ben Roethlisberger ends up playing, and you all corrected me. But this time we're talking about Big Ben. Ben Roethlisberger attempts. Are you all ready? 35.5. Over under, Brian.
Over. This is a different Steelers team. And Ben is back to needing to be over now. We don't want him to be, but you can say 39, and I'm saying over.
There you go. Dave?
Yeah, I don't want to answer the question yet. Sean Smith, thank you for sharing with us. We're glad that you're part of this family. 35.5. I'm going under. I'm going 35 on the nose.
Yeah, I just read Sean's message. Yeah. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate that. So you said under 35 on the nose?
Because you threw the hook in.
Yes, I did. I'm going to say under as well. Let's go with Najee Jerome Harris next. Middle name Jerome. Najee Jerome Harris, in case you misheard. Rushing yards, 95.5. Let's go, Brian. Over under.
I'm going to say over. I think he's definitely has more 100-yard games in him.
Dave, you agree, disagree?
What was the exact number again?
95 and a half.
95 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go under. I think,
Ooh.
yeah.
I'm going to go over. I think he can run wild on this team. He just, the offensive line's grooving. I'm not sure, but I can see this going both ways. I'll go over. Let's go Najee Jerome Harris touchdowns, 1.5. Brian, over under.
I'm going to go ahead and say under and say 1, but I definitely think he's going to get 1.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brian on this one. I really think that there's going to be a time that they're going to say, we are going to just give the rock to the Naj all day. And that's what we're going to do. And we're just going to stick with it because that's what he deserves. I don't know that they're going to do it here. I just don't know that the game's going to play out that way. Therefore, I think 1 is a safer number.
I go over 2. I think he gets 2. 1 rushing, 1 receiving.
I'd love it.
Let's go Steelers sacks of Mr. Burrow. This is assuming TJ Watt plays. 3 is the line. Brian, over under.
Over if TJ Watt plays. Under if he doesn't.
Okay, Dave?
TJ Watt's going to play. The question is, what percentage of TJ Watt are we going to get? I'm hoping we have over a 90% TJ Watt. And I'm going to say it's got to be over because you didn't sack them at all the last time, so you have to make up for it.
What are their sack numbers, Dave? Do you know how many sacks they've surrendered? Have you looked up that information yet?
I'm still gathering that to record my Stat Geek. I have half the numbers done, and that is not one of them that I have done.
Dang it! I was looking forward to your stats on Thursdays, and we're doing this on Wednesday, anyways. Okay, I'm going to take the over and say they get to 4. I think they get 4. So the line was at 3. I'll say 4. All right, Steelers takeaways. They've struggled taking the football away. They did so against the Chargers, though. That Cam Hayward deflection off the head into the hands of Cam Sutton. Doesn't matter how it happens. It happens. Do they get? I have the line at 1.5. That might be a little bold, but over under, Brian.
Well, it's hard for me to think that they're going to be over 2. They've been struggling to get any, and sometimes against some really bad teams. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it is under, but they don't get shut out. I'm going to give them 1.
Dave, over under 1.5.
Before we do that, I want to answer your question. The Cincinnati Bengals have been sacked 28 times this season, playing 10 games. That makes it easy to know that that's 2.8 per game. So, but unfortunately, one of those games that had a 0 was against the Steelers.
Well,
he was pretty close, Mark.
Then he amended it, though.
Didn't even fixed it. Wow.
He fixed it.
Very good, Mark.
Never heard of
I wasn't even
before.
looking. I was looking up the number. But you said takeaways at 1.5. Statistically, I would say under, but I'm going with my gut on this one and going over. I'm thinking that they're going to get some, I'm hoping that they get one splash play that they create themselves and another one that they take advantage of a Cincinnati mistake. So give me 2.
I'm going to go under with 1. Let's go to Steelers turnovers. I have it set at 0.5. Haven't been turning it over at a ridiculous rate, and neither has Ben. Let's go
they
turnovers.
Did Detroit, but when Ben's there, they've been fine.
Right. Brian, what do you think? Over, under?
Look, I'm going with my gut on this one, and I'm actually going to say under. I feel like that is something that they are fixing, so I think they don't give it up this week.
Dave?
If you're forcing me to put my house on it, I would say over because it's the logical choice. But I'm with bad. My gut's saying under, that they play clean again.
I'm going to go under. And let's do the last one. Cincinnati Bengals rushing yards, 110 total. Team, not Mixon, team rushing yards. Brian, over, under?
I'm going to say over. Actually, no, Cincinnati? Yeah, I'm still going to say over.
Do we have Cincinnati's numbers, Dave? Have you looked that up yet? Their rushing numbers?
I can have them in about 15 seconds.
This show on a Wednesday is awful.
yeah, that's your problem. So yeah, see now you got me flustered, and it took a little bit longer. But no, where they lie with their rushing numbers, they are one of the. I mean, not Cleveland, but there's too many teams to start with. See, they're just over 1,000. They're 1,033. So in 10 games, that means they average 103.3 yards per game. They're averaging 3.93 per attempt. I'm gonna go under. For some reason, I'm just thinking it's going to be under. I want this to play out where Joe Burrow has to pass the ball, and because the Steelers put him in a position where he has to, and then they're being able to just pin their ears back and go after him. So let's go under.
I'm going to go over, but not by much. I think they have a couple big runs, and that's kind of what does it for them. So, all right, let's do some prediction time. Do we have the current line, Dave?
I had that, but I wanted to double check. The last I saw was 4. So let me just double check and make sure that has not changed since the injury report came out. So yeah, that the Steelers are currently a 4.5 point underdog, and the over under is 44.5.
Unbelievable. All right, let's go with Brian. What's your prediction, and how do you see it shaking out?
There's no doubt in my mind that the Steelers win this game. I'm going in confident, and I'm going to go back to the fact that I agree in the bulletin board material this week because their manhood has been challenged in this game. And I don't think they forget that, especially with a team that's beaten them the last 2 times, and they don't want it to happen again. They're supposed to own Cincinnati, and in their heads, they think they should own Cincinnati. And the fact that they lost the last 2 times, like Jeff and Dave said, I think that's a really big deal. I think the Steelers liked the taste of 37 points last week. I think they liked it. In fact, it tastes good. They're addicted to it now. They need more. So I'm looking at them getting 34 points this week to Cincinnati's 33.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
That's a huge over. Take the over. Hammer
Take
the over. You're saying
baby.
hammer the over. Okay, what about you, Dave?
Well, I wish we would have done trivia first, but so I won't go into this too much because then you'll see some more stuff with trivia. I'm not as confident as Brian. I am not as confident that they'll definitely win this game because, as we've seen with the Steelers, that I keep trying to remind everyone, they're not going to play the same every time they take the field. Even if they had all the same players, they're still not going to play the same every time they take the field. Sometimes they'll play better. Sometimes they'll play worse. And it's really, you'll get a feel when the game starts out, which Steelers team are you seeing in this game? That's what happens sometimes with young teams. And so could I see the Steelers team that I don't want to see show up on Sunday and play the Bengals? Absolutely. That is definitely possible. I'm going with which one I think is going to show up. I think, especially losing to them already at home, after coming off this loss, after the defense giving up what they gave up this past week, I see the Steelers coming out on top on this one. They like scoring those 30 points now, and I think the defense even helps them out with it a little bit. I'm going 33-24 Steelers.
Okay, I like that. I like it a lot. Fire up the Esquiloser. I think we're going to see it happening once again. It's been a couple years since we've seen that thing moving in the right direction for Steelers fans. I like the Steelers to win, I like them getting the points anyways, but I think they could win on the money line. I have the Steelers winning 27-17, believe it or not, 27-17. And that is really crazy that the over-under set at 44.5 because mine is at 44 even. So I would say take the under by a razor-thin margin. But, a 10-point, maybe it's the Steelers get a late touchdown and it kind of just puts them away. Gosh, I hope it happens. Man, this is a huge game. But I don't want to get to final thoughts yet. I want to get to trivia. Brian, do you have trivia today?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine. Dave, you do. Go ahead.
And it's not a very long trivia. But I was looking at things for my Stat Geek podcast, which will be going, if you're listening to this in podcast form, it's already been published because we're saving this for Thanksgiving, or it'll be close to publish. I don't know which one goes first time-wise. Anyway, but if you're here with us live, it'll be out on Thanksgiving morning. And I was looking at, the Steelers bouncing back after a rough defensive performance where the Steelers gave up 41 points. Now, I didn't count the playoffs because there's 2 playoff games where they gave up 41 points. And you just can't look at what they did the next game because it ended their season. It just doesn't fit into figuring stuff out. But when I was looking at this, I even set the line at 30 points. Since Mike Tomlin was hired as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have only given up 30 points in back-to-back games one time. Can you name it?
I can.
Good, Brian. I'm curious. I don't know.
I'm going back to his rookie year, 2007, and I'm going to say New England and Jacksonville.
That they gave up 30 points in both of those games?
Yes.
That would not be correct.
Okay.
I got to find where they. Okay, there we are. Jefferson Hartman.
Let's see here.
You should be able to get this, Jefferson Hartman.
Why? Not good at trivia.
No, but you should know this.
Was it the 2013 0-4 start by chance that they gave up 2 games in a row? I know they went 0-4 to start.
That would be correct.
Okay. Now, which 2
games? Because they gave up 40. Okay. You should know this one.
Well, Chicago, they gave up 30, didn't they?
Yep. Yes, they gave up 40.
Jay Cutler, and I was there for that. That's probably why you said that, right?
That's why you should know the answer to this.
I knew that's where you were going when you said that, because fan of the game.
Fan of the week. The week.
Fan of the week. Oh,
that's right. Get it right or pay the price. All right. They say a camp on Awana. All right. I might have dated myself. That was Salute Your Shorts, by the way, back on the old school Nickelodeon days. I don't know. They didn't give up 30 to Minnesota and London, did they?
Yes, they did. They lost to Minnesota 34-27.
What happens in London doesn't count, though.
I can just remember Greg Jennings running down the field untouched for a touchdown in London.
And
Le'Veon Bell
I have to say this for Brian. Yes, he did. I remember that as well. I had to listen to that one on the radio. I was playing in a golf tournament. Yeah, which is funny. Jeff's the golfer, and I was one playing in a golf tournament. But to Brian's answer, when they lost back-to-back games to the Patriots and Jaguars in 2007, they gave up 34 to New England. It was 29-22 against the Jaguars. So that was how you were off. So you were really, really close.
Razor thin.
The infamous 29.
You were golfing during that game. I just got done golfing. I'm still cold. My hands are still cold, but we got 9 in. Day before Thanksgiving.
Like, you said you were golfing today. I'm like, it's 40 degrees. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Woo.
Good for you.
Played well, though. Played well. Okay, anyways, let's do some final thoughts. Brian, are you good to go now that you don't have any final thoughts? You kind of used that up in the first part.
Yeah, I kind of did. But,
I'll say it again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something a little bit different. This game coming up, we're missing when we Steeler Nation's missing watching some of their favorite players on defense. And I fully believe that this team is so much better when Minka Anane Fitzpatrick Jr. and Joseph Walter Hayden III are in the lineup. I think it's about time that those guys get middle names. And so from Brian Anthony Davis, Walter and Anane, that's what I'm naming my next 2 dogs.
Wait, what were the names again?
Joseph Walter Hayden III.
Oh, okay.
So his friends call him Wally. I don't know if that's true, but we're his friends now.
We'll go with it.
It's Joe Wally Hayden. And Minka Anane. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's Annane.
I don't know if you noticed, but I did in your Bold and Bizarre predictions article last week. I added Christopher Lynn Boswell.
I did not know that, but I heard it on Let's Ride. I was like, yes.
Christopher Lynn, Michael, Padaway, right? Michael Padaway Tomlin. Is it Padaway or Padaway?
Padaway.
Head
And
away.
I know I started all of this nonsense with the Benjamin Todd thing, and then Dave jumped in and I started the nonsense, and Dave just took it to a different. Dave and Big Bro
Yes.
took it to a different level, and it's like, all right, that's awesome.
Frank Webb. We need to find out his middle name.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, your final thoughts. Go ahead.
All right. I do want to say one thing just to clarify on my trivia. When I say that they've given up back-to-back games of scoring more than 30 points, I did not count games that ended one season and started the next. I hope you all understood that. I just wanted to clarify. I didn't want to be accused of lying to you all. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that. But it kind of goes with what my prediction is. We don't know what Pittsburgh Steelers football team is going to show up. Jeff had a fantastic article this week about, are the Steelers ever going to put together a complete game, or is it just a pipe dream? It was a fantastic article at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was on Tuesday. Was that on Tuesday, Jeff?
I don't know what day.
I'll put you on the spot, but it was on there. It's great stuff. And that's just because this team, sometimes they seem like they have it together and sometimes they don't. We kind of saw it last year as well. I have faith that it's going to be the team that's going to have it all together to go out and get the job done. I don't always do that. Last week I felt like they weren't going to be able to put it together and pull it off. I just had that feeling, and then they almost did anyway. So that, you know what, I'm like, since it didn't work out last time, let's see if this team can take the field this week. And if it's not the team that shows up for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then you know what? Then they might not deserve to win the game. But I think if they show up and do what they can do, they can beat anybody in this league. They just have to come through and do what they do because they're the Pittsburgh friggin' Steelers. That's why. So I can't wait until 1:00 on Sunday to be able to sit down and watch this team play again. And then after it's all said and done, be back with you two guys back for the postgame show.
There you go. There you go. All right. Good show. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there that's listening, whether it's on Wednesday or Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope you enjoy it. And we'll be back next week to to preview a Ravens game. We're back. All right, Dave, go ahead and send us out.
Hey.
All right, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Go Steelers.